Hello and welcome to this tutorial on lighting and compositing for feature animation or full CG animation. Um, I, I'm making this tutorial because I don't seem to find anything similar to it online. Um, and of course, I didn't look super deep, but just on the surface, I didn't find any free information that kind of really goes over the actual workflow that's going to take place at most of your major animation studios. Just for reference, I work at DreamWorks currently. I've been at Sony and Disney in the past. And for someone just starting out, a lot of the things I'm going to talk about are going to be similar. They'll pop up in those studios. Every studio's got a different pipeline, but some of the basic tasks involved with shot lighting I'm going to cover. So let's get started. Today I'm going to try and use all free assets, free tools. So I'm going to be doing the lighting in Blender and the compositing in Nuke. Nuke really isn't like you could choose different 3D packages for your lighting, like Maya, Cinema 4D, etc. But Nuke is pretty much a standard. Like, I would really not recommend trying to do something like this in After Effects. Nuke is just what everyone uses. It's really robust. It's node-based. It's what I'm going to use, and I really wouldn't recommend trying to composite anything else if you want to work in the industry at a big studio. That's not to say maybe some studios have something special they made for themselves. But every studio I've worked at, Nuke is the compositor. So yeah, if you're interested in lighting for VFX, that's a little different. Usually there's a dedicated compositor, a different department, and you'll just get your CG assets, light them, break up the layers, AOVs, and send it to the comp department, and then they'll comp the images into the plate and final the shots. But in full CG animation, you're going to be responsible for comping all your shots. Usually, I've only worked at one studio that was full animation and had a comp department, and it didn't work out too well. It's really good for a CG lighter to be able to do both. Okay, so let's get started. Here, I'm going to send you this link in the description. This is the Blender website, and they have free scene files here that you can use to learn Blender. And if you're just getting started, you're just by yourself, you don't have any team member or friend to build assets for you so you can light, well, there's some free ones right here. I'm going to be using this classroom right here. So I went ahead and downloaded that already. And when you get it, it'll be a zip file that says classroom.zip. I'm just creating this lighting tutorial folder on my desktop, and I put the downloaded file that I got from Blender right in here. I've already gone through this demo on my own last night, so I'm just to see if everything was going to work out. But I'm starting fresh with you in case maybe you can learn some of the little things along the way that I take for granted. So just going to extract everything here, go into Classroom, and I've already installed Blender, so I'm just going to double click Blend File and open this up. Okay, and I have an off-screen monitor, so things are going to pop in and out of the screen as we go along. Okay, so first things first, let's say you're a shot lighter, a studio. You're not going to be setting up lights most likely. What you're going to do is your lead has already set up the sequence lighting for you. There's a light rig, there's assets, there's animation. You're going to get a scene that's full of data. You're going to have to manipulate the lights, manage the layers, Make sure all the data that the compositor, which in this case is going to be you, needs to final the shot. Make sure the light rig is working as the lead intended. Address any small lighting notes that may come up. So yeah, I might do another tutorial on lighting setup, but this one's mostly going to be towards shot lighting with a little bit of lighting setup mixed in. So as I said, I've already familiarized myself with this environment. I would say that's the first thing you can do. In a big studio, some of these assets can be huge. It might not be worth tumbling around through the environment. Usually you just send what you can to the farm, the render farm, see what comes back. That's going to eliminate a lot of data that you don't need to worry about. Like anything outside of this room, let's say there was a whole city asset out here. I don't need to be trying to tumble through there, checking out geo or looking for lights. I really just need to render what's in camera, and then deal with what I have in Nuke, and then see what I'm missing, and come back to the 3D software and remove data I don't need to speed up the render, or add data that was missing, like missing render layers or AOBs. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm really just going to go to render image, and see what we get. As I said, I've already dove in here, so I know a little bit more about the intricacies, but what I can see right away is we've got some sunlight, direct sunlight. That's probably a directional light or a real far away distant light that's casting these direct shadows here. We probably have a soft window fill that's coming from this side. We have some practical lights, these practical ceiling lights that are providing room fill. We've got a chalkboard light here that's lighting up the board so you can read it, and we have a light in the hallway over here. So the first things first, or the first thing you should do when you're shot lighting, is try and get through the pipeline, because there's going to be a lot of problems that are going to arise. Render errors, updates you're going to be getting. It's best to just get all the way through Nuke, because then you get a full sense of what you have and what you need. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as a OpenEXR multi-layer. That means there's going to be lots of auxiliary channels I can choose from later. We'll set those up when we come back from Nuke. For now, I'm just going to set up my OpenEXR, RGBA. Let's make sure there's an alpha channel in there. Let's find the folder on my desktop that I created. I think I was already in there. Yeah, desktop lighting tutorial, classroom. Let's go ahead and create a new folder in here called images. Let's open that up, and let's give this a title. I'm going to say lighting test. Okay. Save that image. Okay. Now I'm going to link another website for you for Nuke. Nuke is free for students to learn. Well, you don't have to be a student like in a college or anything, but you know, you're learning. Non-commercial, so you can't make any money off of it. But there are some limitations, like one being resolution. We can only go up to 1080p or HD resolution, which is fine. That's what we're going to use. So anyway, I've already installed this. You got to sign up for an account and get a license emailed to you. Then once that's set up, let's start Nuke X non-commercial. There's Nuke and Nuke X. I think the difference is like Nuke X has some like special 3D tracking and some other stuff. I can't remember the differences, but I don't think it's very important. Okay, so this is what you're going to get in Nuke. You have a viewer, you have a node graph, and you have properties panel. So the first thing we're going to do is get our data in here. So if you press tab while you're in this node graph, you can search for nodes to place down. So I'm going to do a read node. This is going to read an image or read data from disk and bring it in. So we're going to go to our home desktop. Where's that? Lighting tutorial, classroom, images, and there's that lighting test EXR that I rendered out. Okay, so it's black. What the heck's going on there? If we go into Blender, we see that we had something rendered here. We can check out the channels that were rendered. We've got combined, depth, normal. So these all seem to have data in them. So where's ours? The problem is Nuke is showing you, it's choosing its channel here to display to you. And by default, they have RGBA. We don't have a channel called RGBA. Blender is defaulted to this channel, interior combine. So that's not a problem. What we're just going to do is we're going to lay down a copy node. Copy. And we're going to copy from this tree back into this tree. So B would be where you want your stream that you want the data to come into. And A would be where's the data coming in that you want to copy over here. Since actually we could probably just use a shuffle node now that I think about it, but I'm going to do this copy node. Since this read node contains all our data, both attachments will go there. And what I'm going to do over here for the channels is I am going to take interior combined red, interior combined green, interior combined blue, and interior combined alpha. Those are all the channels for that layer. And then I'm going to send them to a new layer, which is going to be RGBA red, red to red, RGBA green, green to green, RGBA blue, blue to blue, and let's bring the alpha channel over. Okay, let's inspect all our data. So in our viewer, our RGBA is displaying the proper channel now, and if we press A, if we click in here and press A, we can see our alpha channel is working. That's the outdoors through the window. We've got transparency, so perfect. Okay. So you won't have to set up all this stuff. Your lead would have already set up a Nuke template with all kinds of stuff going on. But this is, today I'm going to show you how to do this on your own. Like I said, this is aimed more towards juniors, people who aren't super familiar with Nuke, or maybe you want to create a portfolio for yourself and you want to use some workflows that are going to be related to what you're going to be doing in the real world. Okay, so we've got our main RGBA layer coming through here. This is the beauty image. This is the result of all our combined AOVs. You may have known about another workflow where you get all the AOVs separate, all different EXRs like diffuse, lighting, specular, and you combine them to create this. And I think some VFX does that workflow, but in all the animation studios that I've worked at, we do what is called subtractive AOV grading. So we start with a combine channel, and then we edit within that, and we subtract lights out, or we subtract AOVs from that result. We don't add them together. Okay, so that's what we need to do here. Let's display all the data that's going on inside of this read node. If you go up here, you can see this is a list of all the different channels that exist in this multi-channel EXR. So if we tab and do layer contact sheet and just hook it up to the original read node, and let's view from there. To view from nodes, I'm clicking 1. You see this viewer appears. If I delete that, there's no viewer there, but I can click any node and press 1 on the keyboard and create a brand new viewer, and that'll send our data up there. And wherever this viewer is connected to, that's where you're going to be seeing the data. So the data comes in from disk into this read node. We're doing a little processing, and then we are viewing the result. If I view from up here, we're no longer viewing this process. We're viewing just the original data. So that's just the general Nuke workflow. Data comes in, it is processed, and then it's output. Okay, so if we check out just our raw input, what's coming in from disk, if we double click on any of these, you can see in the properties window, update their properties. It also will stack the previous nodes you've loaded in here. I like to go up to this number. This is 10. This will load 10 different histories of nodes. I change that to 1 so I know what I'm focusing on. So this will just be the read nodes properties. This is just the contact sheet properties. This is just this copy nodes properties. Let's go to the contact sheet by double clicking. Let's change this little show layer names click to on, and now we can see the layer names in here. And now we're starting to get an idea of what kind of data we're dealing with and what we'll need for the shot. So I see we have an ambient occlusion pass, the interior combine AOV, we have the depth pass, color pass, some diffuse lighting, diffuse and direct. So everything looks good to me. This is an interesting layer here. So what I'm trying to do is like account for all my lighting in the scene. So I have this combine AOV here. That's all of the lighting combined, but I need to break this out into different AOVs or different auxiliary or channels for lights or light groups. That way I can control each light individually and do some relighting or lighting adjustments in Nuke. So if this is the result, I can see I've got some emission here, and I've got some strange, this is transmission. So this must be like an emissive material that is getting transmitted through glass, and that's what we're seeing. So it's good to keep in mind all these extra little light contributions because we're going to have to deal with them later. Okay, so if we view the contact sheet from this copy channel, we will see a new channel appear, and that's RGBA, and that will have our combined result in it. There it is, and it's a direct copy of the interior combine. So RGBA. So this is the one we're going to be manipulating, and this is the one we're going to be outputting as our final shot. Okay, so now that that's set up, let's do some light edits. Right now we have no control over the lights. They're just stored as auxiliary channels in this stream, but we need to access them. So what we need to do is put a shuffle, and actually kind of want to bring in a previous tool I made last night. So hold on for a second. I'm just on the other screen looking for that lighting tutorial. Oh well, I will find it or pause the video for you. Okay, well it seems I deleted that, so that's great. We will just rebuild from scratch, and I know how to do this, so it'll be fine. So what we're going to do here is shuffle out one of these AOVs that we want to play with. So lay down a shuffle node, and I'm going to choose the channel. Let's start with... Oh, actually, we don't have any light AOVs, no light groups to work with. So this is great. Let's go back. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to go ahead in Classroom. I'm going to create another folder called comp. And I'm going to just save this as comp. We can do lighting tut comp version 1. Sure. Okay. So as I said before, it's important to get through the pipeline. So the end of this pipeline for you is going to be like a write node here. And I don't need to write any images out for this tutorial. But we basically bring in our data, we're editing it, and then we're outputting it. So this would just save a file in whatever compression and whatever format you wanted out to disk. So now that we've gotten through the pipe, let's go back into Blender and get some more data that we need in order to make this work for us. So here we are in Blender. So the first thing we need to do is collect our lights into some light group AOVs that we can edit. So the way these work in Blender is you select a light. Let's see, we've got all this stuff. Let's go ahead and find our lights. You see these icons here. There's a light in this collection, light in this collection. Okay. So this is exterior fill light. So this is that light that I was saying would probably be outside the window. So exterior fill light. We've got a window portal light. We've got this distant light. We've got point lights inside these guys, and we've got a light over here for the chalkboard. So let's go ahead and start making some AOVs. So if we go here to this layers tab, go down to the bottom. Well, let's go through and make sure we have the AOVs that we want, aside from light group AOVs. I've got combine, I've got Z. Yeah, these are all good for defaults. What I want to add though is cryptomats so that I can edit, grade different objects in the scene. So those are my mats. For light groups, let's create one. And we're going to call this one, I know there's a sunlight out there, so we'll do sun. And then I know there's a window fill. No, there is a portal. Let's call that one skylight. We've got chalkboard. We've got, oops. We've got this hallway light. And then we've got ceiling. I think that accounts for everything. Let's go ahead and start checking it out. So now that we've created these light groups, they're going to be available to us to assign to lights. So we got blackboard light, ceiling light, sunlight. Okay. So let's select the sun. We're going to go to this little object properties down under shading. Here's the light groups. These are the light groups we created. This would have been blank if you hadn't created any yet. So we go into sun. So we're going to assign the sunlight to the sun AOV. So everything, all the contribution of light from the sun is going to go into this auxiliary channel. We've got the corridor ceiling light. That's a light up here in this hallway. So I called that hallway. There is another light in here. There's these windows that have like an emissive texture on them. So we want to collect those into this same AOV. I could do a separate AOV, but because we only see a little bit of the doorway, all that light's going to be pretty similar. If I need a more control, I can split those out later, but right now for simplicity I just want to group them. We got the blackboard light. That's going to be chalkboard, blackboard, same thing. We've got this exterior fill light. That's going to be window fill. These ceiling lights, since I've already done this, went through this yesterday, are a little bit different. So we have the ceiling corridor, sun, windows. I think that's everything. I don't think there's an environment light setup. No. So if we go into world properties, this is where there would be like a sky dome or environment light, and we could under settings go to set that to a light group, but I don't think one exists. So let's go ahead and just see where we're at. You could tell right now I'm not sure which lights I've covered, like if I've gotten them all into AOV groups yet. So I'm going to go ahead and do a test render to find out. Okay, let this resolve just a little bit, and then we're going to escape. Oops. I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to Blender. I've actually just learning it for this tutorial. I usually, in the past, have used Maya a lot, but I don't want to use that because it's a pain in the butt, I think. I think Blender is really cool. It's free. I wanted anyone to be able to follow along for free. Okay, so up here we have our AOV passes, and let's take a look at what we've collected. So our sun, that's working well. That's the contribution from the sun. We've got window fill. Interesting. Okay, this isn't doing much for me, this light. So I'm going to combine it probably with another one. We've got skylight. Skylight's got nothing. So that one's broken, so we'll have to troubleshoot that. The chalkboard light's working, great. Hallway light's working, great. And the ceiling lights. We don't have the ceiling lights set because they're a special case. So let's start with these ceiling lights. These ceiling lights are an asset that's being imported from another. It's not imported; it's being referenced from another Blender file. So often in animation, you'll get what is like a look dev file, or it's a complete asset. So this asset has lights within it that I need to deal with. I need to get them into AOVs. So what I need to do is go open up this, either import all these assets in, which I don't want to do. I'm going to keep them referenced. I need to go into the asset file, the Blender file for this asset, and assign the lights to that, to the AOV group in that scene. So if I go into here, into my project directory, this is the classroom that I unzipped. There's something called assets, lamps. There's the lamps that we're referencing. I'm going to open those up. Here they are. If we take a look, we can see. I already know that this casing has emissive material on it. It's sending light out into this thing too. So I need to make sure that's part of the AOV group. And then inside there is a point light. That also needs to be part of the AOV group. So if I have the point light selected, I'm going to go into first I'm going to go into layers because I need to create that AOV here, or that light group here. And I'm going to call this ceiling lamp. I'm calling it lamp so that it differentiates from the ceiling AOV I already created in the other scene. I'm going to delete that one. Alright, so ceiling lamps available to us. Let's go ahead and assign it. Let's see here. Shading. Sorry, I got a little lost there. Shading, light group. Ceiling lamp. So we're going to do that for the light, and we're going to do that for the shell. Ceiling lamp. We're going to go and save this file. Close it out. And now we need to reopen this file. So let's go ahead and save this as a version up. Classroom 1 blend. That way we don't break any of our work from the original. And let's go ahead and open it. I'm just going to open. So it just reloaded that file really quickly, but now it's going to reload that reference. So if I go to render image, let's see what this has done. Let's escape, and let's look at I did not get this. The asset did not come in. Let's just close this out just to be sure. Just to be sure. I don't know why that's not working, because it totally worked for me earlier. Let's go ahead. I'm going to open up that asset again. Yep, I have that group selected for both those things. Got the asset saved. These are still linked. Ceilings should give me nothing. Oops, I have to escape. No. I will figure that out. Later. Because this happens all the time in CG. And I'm just going to move forward with my work. So, we have some AOVs that are working. Let's go into Nuke and reestablish what we need. We'll just work through this problem little by little. So, oh yeah. Let's go ahead and render an image for Nuke. We're going to let it resolve just a little more so we have something better to work with. Okay, save as images, lighting set test. I'm just going to overwrite that last image that I had started with. Go back into Nuke, double click my read node and reload. Okay, it didn't look like it changed, but now if we go to shuffle, we'll see we have our layers not here. Why are they not here? Okay, I think this is a time where I need to not waste your time. So I'll pause and come back. Okay, so I figured out what I was doing wrong. In this output, you have some like global output settings, and this was set to RGB PNG. And so me just going through the motions, I didn't notice that I had actually saved a separate PNG. I didn't overwrite my multi-layered EXR. So I've rendered out another one. Go to image, save as. These were being reset to the scene. So now we have the multi-EXR, RGBA. I'm going to overwrite that. Now if we go into Nuke, should see our light AOVs too. Make sure I reload this. There we go. Alright, so we've got cryptomats. Alright, we've got our sunlight there, I see the hallway light. So it looks like things are working, the chalkboard light. Okay, so now that we have some light AOVs to work with, let's go ahead and start trying to create a place where we can, or create some tools that we're going to need to manipulate these lights. So let's shuffle out the sunlight. Okay. So what this is doing is just creating a second stream, a second branch, and we're going to limit the data to just the sunlight. So this is the combined result of all the lights. This is just the sunlight. Now what we're going to need to do is work on two separate channels. We're going to work on the RGBA that we're displaying here, but we're also going to work on this light AOV auxiliary channel. That way, if later in the stream you want to edit that channel again, it's not the original light AOV that came from Blender, it's the edited one. And I'll show you what I mean here in a second. So first thing we're going to do is, from this main RGBA channel that we're viewing, our main beauty, we're going to remove this light. So do a merge node and do a from. See? Now we've removed that light from the scene. Now over here, what we want to do is allow ourselves to edit this light. So I'm pressing G for grade on the keyboard. You can do tap, grade, and then I also do M for merge. So we have this grade. Let's go ahead and make it very apparent what we're doing to this light. If we go into the gain, let's turn the red and blue channels to 0. Now it's very green. Okay, so in the main beauty we have removed, oops, sorry. See, I don't want to remove the edited version, I want to remove the original version. So I've removed that original version of this interior combined sun AOV. I'm going to grade it so that it's green, and now I'm going to merge it back on top with a plus. It's very important, the first one's from and the second one is plus. plus we'll add the light. So there's our result. I'm going to select both of these. I'm pressing D on the keyboard to disable or re-enable nodes. And we can see that's what we want. We want to be able to control an individual light. Okay, but now we have another problem that we've created. Okay, if we view from down here, this is the RGBA that we're looking at, the beauty layer. If we go and look at the sunlight layer, I'm sorry for the slowness on this. I might edit it, might not. So here we are. There's the sun AOV. It's not green. That's a problem. Because if we try and apply a second AOV grade, it's going to be using this information to grade the beauty. And it won't create a perfect match. So if I grade this to 0, it's not gonna just remove the light like we did, like you can see here. It won't just remove the light like this. And I'll show you by basically doing another iteration of this. So if I grab all this and I say, okay, let's shuffle out this light. Let's remove it. Whoa, see? It is not able to manipulate that light in a mathematically correct way anymore. So in order to fix this, what we need to do is in this layer contact sheet, this sun AOV, and I'm sorry, I don't want to watch this load all the time. We need to get it to be green as well. It needs to match the same grade. So that can be done pretty easily. We create another shuffle node. Okay. And in the main stream, we're going to shuffle whatever the result was from this grade. So this grade's channel is going to get shuffled into that AOV that is the sun, interior combined sun. And what are we going to shuffle into it? The RGB. So the RGB that's coming from this is going to get shuffled over to that that sun AOV. I never noticed how slow this is until I've got somebody listening in. Okay, so yeah. Interior combined sun. Okay, so that didn't work either. Because it's got a mixture of all the lights plus that sun. So I've got these switched. So I want B and A. Actually, I think I want it that way because B's are always in a straight line. B, 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 see these nodes, and A's are always off to the side. And that's important because when you go to disable these nodes, if you disable like this merge, it's going to default to the B chain. So if the B is going off to one of these side chains, then it'll divert your data and you will not get the expected result. So what I really need to do is flop these. Okay, on second thought, I may just be speaking and not actually understanding what's going on. Trying to speak and do this at the same time is not something I'm used to. So in order to test this out, let's turn this into a macro. A macro is like a set of nodes that are contained within a group. Thinking like a folder with files inside of it. There'll be an input and an output. So just like these nodes, every one of these nodes is like a macro. It has operations that happen within it, an input and an output. So we just gotta select all these nodes. We'll keep this one separate. So I'm just gonna press, I'm gonna select this node and press period key to create a dot. Okay. Now I'm going to select my processing that I want to be in the macro. Press Ctrl G. It's going to ask for input and outputs. I'm just going to click OK. I don't care what they are right now. So as you can see, it created this group. If I select it and press Ctrl Enter, now you see I'm in another tab here. That's inside the node. Now I can establish my input and outputs. So the data is just coming in, hitting this dot, and going out. So that's not going to work. We want it, the output to be this shuffle. So it's in, coming in, going through here, and getting output. Okay, so what's important is that when I disable this node, I want to see the original result. So I want to see the results of the node turned on and the result of the node disabled. So if I go in here and look at this shuffle again, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to take the result of this shuffle in B, and move it over to this channel in A. And if we look at the layer context sheet, show layer names. This is like the trickiest part of this whole tutorial, is creating this AOV grade node, or this is like macro. And I had figured it out yesterday. Every time I go to make it, it always trips me up. And I had it working perfectly last night. And then I guess I deleted the files because I wanted to start fresh and forgot to copy that that particular node out of that old comp. That's okay. Okay, so now this is working. So the AOV is being changed, as well as the RGB. So the change is happening. So yeah, this is not working. Oh, I think I need another shuffle down here. Yep, that's where I'm messing up. Okay. So we have the B stream is going RGB to RGB. That's just going through. But then we have the A stream, which is down here. That's going to be RGB, and that's going to get shuffled to this combined sun. This I'm hoping works. I probably don't even need, this probably could have just been A. I don't need this shuffle happening. Perfect. So we see this interior combined sun. If we remove the shuffle, it'll be the original result we got from Nuke. I don't know why this is going so slow. This is crazy slow. Alright, yeah. So the result is working. And then if we view this result, that's working as well. Okay, great. So now what we're going to do is go up a level to this group node that we created. Inside here is where all that processing is happening. And let's disable it and enable it. And okay, the result that we're expecting is working. So this is all good. Let's call this AOV grade. So what we're going to do here is up in these properties, we're going to right click and go to manage user knobs, and we're going to pick some knobs to expose. So if I pick here, this is showing me all the nodes inside this group. I'm going to go into the grade node and go down to the gain. I'm going to expose that. I'm going to pick another one in that grade, the multiply, and then I am going to pick this shuffle node, the first shuffle node that's kind of like choosing our AOV to work with, and I'm going to choose the in one, and that's going to show us what AOV I had chosen in there. Now anything I do out here is going to link to what's happening inside. So if I change this from the sun to the window fill, and we go into shuffle 1, we'll see it's now window fill. So those are linked. So window fill was not a good one. Let's do the chalkboard just to kind of show. So the chalkboard's getting our edit now, right? But if we look, I won't load it, but if we looked in the layer contact, our chalkboard would still be the original. It wouldn't be the green, and that's because this shuffle, the second shuffle, is still pointing at the sun AOV. So we need to link these. So whatever you choose in shuffle 1 also is chosen in shuffle 2. And we can do this by going up here, allowing two histories of nodes to be displayed. There's shuffle 1, there's shuffle 2, shuffle 1 needs to be copied to shuffle 2. So if we go to shuffle 1 and we go here and click this little like menu item here, it'll be set link. If we go to set link, it's going to tell you what the name of this knob is, and it's AOV grade shuffle 1.in1. So I want that, whatever I choose there, to appear here. So if I go here, set link, I can just copy this name from here to here. And you can't select it, so you're going to have to write it. But AOV grade dot shuffle 1.in1. Okay, and now it's going to tell you what the result is, interior combined chalkboard. So now, see, this is grayed out, it's linked. So anything we change this to, hallway, see, we change it to hallway, it changes there. There's a problem with this though. It is specifically linked to this AOV grade node. This node, AOV grade. If the name changes, if we duplicate this node, it will break that link. So all we have to do to fix this is in this expression, just remove AOV grade. And what it's going to do is it's just going to find whatever parent node it has, and inside that it'll look for shuffle. And as long as shuffle 1 and shuffle 2 don't change within these nodes, the links will work. Okay. So Let's go back out. Let's go ahead and rearrange this so it's a little nicer. I'm going to go right click, manage user knobs. I'm going to move this shuffle up. I'm going to rename it, so edit. Just the label. Leave the name the same because any expressions you were creating is dependent on that name, so don't change that name. Let's just change the label, which is superficial and doesn't work with the code. It's just a display name. We'll call this AOV. The gain, I don't know why, I just want it capitalized. And multiply, I want it capitalized. Okay. And let's do a cute something. Let's add a divider line and let's move it up. Just so it separates the AOV. Why not? I don't know. I like it. So now we should be able to choose whatever AOV we want to. The sunlight will receive our edits. The window fill. Like I said, a lot of these aren't working. But now that we have this macro created, what we need to do is account for all the lighting in the scene. We need to be able to remove it all and get a black image. So let's start doing that. Let's set this to 0. You can click on here to expose the color wheel or hide it, and then you can click on here to expose the 4 channels RGBA or hide it. So now it's just a simple 0 to 1. 1 will be the original result, 2 would be a multiple of that, 0 would be multiplying the result by 0, which equals 0 always. Multiply by 0, always get 0. And then 0.5 would be half the result. So let's do that 0. We've completely removed the chalkboard light. Let's Control CV, copy paste, and let's start working our way through these. So we have a ceiling. That AOV has nothing in it. Let's do hallway. Boom, hallway's gone. Boom, I feel like Emerald Lagasse. Skylight does nothing. Sun, goodbye sun. And window fill. Those do nothing. Okay. So now we need to go troubleshoot because we have all this light in the scene that's unaccounted for. We should be able to get where a missive. We'll get rid of those. Okay. And so we're almost at a black image. So I see some light in there. That might just be bounce light. Obviously we got these ceiling lights are not working. We need to figure that out. We got window light coming in here, spill, that isn't working. So let's go try back to Nuke. We'll save this and let's go figure out why that's not working. So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this ceiling AOV because it's confusing me. I know that those ceiling lights need to come in with their own AOV. So window fill was a very small piece of light, like a sliver. I want to combine that with the portal light that's out there. So let's see. What are these? Seem to have more. Okay, those are blinds. Windows, plane, daylight portal. There's the light that I want. So that's the main contributor of light. A portal light basically just uses the sun and sky shaders to kind of focus those rays in here. It's just it's a more efficient way of sampling the sky dome through the window. So let's go down to the shader on this guy and change him to window fill. And let's also remove skylight. I don't like skylight. So we've got sun, window, fill, chalkboard, hallway. And the ceiling lights should be coming from the asset. So because I can't figure that out just yet, like why the asset's not bringing in that light, I'm just going to ignore this for now. So I'm going to turn off the ceiling lights altogether. Okay. Let's go ahead and go to render. Oh, this is something I remembered knowing or figuring out. There is a piece of geometry in here. This guy. He needs to be added to that light group. It's an emissive material and it's casting some indirect light. Well, I need to get that in the chalkboard. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and save and render. I always save before I kick off a render, because that's when you're most likely to get a crash. Cool. Let's check out what we've got. We've got the sun. That's working. We've got window fill. Yay, that's working great. We've got chalkboard working and the hallway working. Okay, I'm hoping that accounts for all the light in our scene currently, since we hid the ceiling lights. So let's go ahead and save this image. Just overwrite the old one. Go back into Nuke, do a reload on this node. Black, beautiful. This is exactly what we want. So if we start here, right? This is our scene minus the ceiling lights. We'll hopefully get back. We removed the chalkboard. I'm going to delete that node because it did nothing. We remove the hallway. Again, delete that one. Remove the sun. Remove the window. Great. Now let's see if we can't go back and so let me explain the black thing. Now we have full control over all the light in the scene, and it's separated out into these different grade nodes. So, you know, I could bring the chalkboard up, and I could make it green, yellow. It could be the only light in the whole scene. Let's say I want to add some moonlight now. I'll go into that sun. There's the sun. Let's go ahead and grade that to a blue and bring it down. See? It's very powerful workflow we have going on here. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to relight this scene in 3 different ways. For now, let's just go back to black. Okay, let's go back and get, because I want control over that ceiling lights. I think it added a lot of, it's very practical to have those lights, because this room's going to be very dark if we don't have those fill lights to work with. So let's figure it out. Okay, so interesting. Chalkboard, chalkboard. I'm looking down here, and chalkboard is... Okay, it just wasn't updating. Fill. So I don't have the ability to put those in an AOV group. Or, sorry, a light group. They're definitely linked. If we open, let's save this, and let's open assets, lamps, lamp.blend. Hey, I don't remember what this was, but I deleted it last time. Maybe that'll help. Who knows? Use for rendering, blah blah blah. Yada light group, ceiling lamp. And then we're going to go here. Well, that's all working. Let's go ahead and see if our changes that are happening in this scene are getting propagated to the next scene. So we've got this this light. Let's change it to green again. Green's real visible. I'm going to save this, close it out, then I'm going to open that shot again. Let's test this. If these lights turn green, that means that our changes are propagating. Yeah. But we're not getting the... We're getting the changes, but those AOV, that light group's not coming over. I'm going to create a light group, put these in it, and see what happens in this scene. I'm not quite sure. I just kind of figured this out by sheer luck last time. Oh, no. So let's call it ceiling. Alright, and let's just add all these, I guess. Ceiling, ceiling. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, all accounted for. There's 2 behind camera, 2 more lights right above, or above the camera. Oh, keep doing that. I wish the same button to stop the render was not also close the window. Okay. So ceiling, nothing. Yeah, just as I expected. Okay, this is, I'm gonna pause here, stop the video here, and figure this out and come back. Okay, so I figured out what's going on. you have to have the same light group in both scenes with the exact same name. So if we go in here, let's see. If we go into our lamp file, I'm going to assign, so I had two different names I was playing with. So if I just create ceiling light group, I'm going to assign both the shape with the emissive material and the point light to ceiling. Save that. I'm going to reload this scene and then render. Cool. And then let's check. So yeah, I have the exact over here in layers or light groups. I created one called ceiling, and then I went to the collection for this lamp, these lamps, and I've assigned the light group in this scene that corresponds to the exact same name as the asset scene. And now we have, yes, the ceiling. It would be nice to have control, like to separate the surface emission into a different light group. I'm not quite sure how to do that, how I would assign those two different light groups in this main file, because yeah, it doesn't let me assign more than one here. So let's just do it for now. We'll use CryptoMats to separate it out later. Alright. So I am now going to do a quick test one. Our test image. We'll let it resolve just for a few seconds here. And let's see if we have everything accounted for. Let's go to image, save as. Got the workflow down now. It's very repetitive. Okay, reload. Alright, now we have that last AOV to deal with. And that AOV is going to be ceiling. Black. Perfect. So, save this. Let's go back into Blender. Let's open up that lamp file. Because we're done troubleshooting this. Let's change this point light back to white. Save that. Reload this scene. Render image. Okay, let's see. Let's think about any other lights we'll need. No, we were getting a black result in Nuke. So everything's good. Let's go ahead and let this resolve to something much nicer. And then we'll start really getting into the relighting in Nuke. Okay, so we're back. I've let this resolve a little bit. You could let this cook, for an hour. It still has significant noise in it, but it's going to be fine for what we're doing. Alright, let's do it. Save as. Let's open up Nuke. And it looks like it's already reloaded. And oops. What is that down there? Layer contact sheet. Oops. Black. Perfect. So all our AOVs are still working. So let's set up some other stuff down here. So it's very important that you follow a standard of order of operations when you're doing light grades, grading, comp for animation work. The first thing you can do is you can deal with your light AOVs. They all need to be edited in the same section. Then after that, you can do basic. Well, you could do like a lobe overrides, like diffuse, albedo, stuff like that. After this, I don't really recommend doing any of that because you're manipulating the shader at that point. The relationship between diffuse and specularity, and such. You're a shader artist or surfacer. Lighters work with lights, and sure, lots of people, I know a lot of artists that mess with that stuff. I tend to notice it when I can see think about it. The look dev artist gets their look approved by director. Lots of eyes on those assets. You start tweaking like the specularity of a surface just to get your shot through. You're really undermining someone else's work. Unless that note's been directly given to you, I wouldn't do that. Just work with the light AOVs. And also, you'll find you'll run into less problems. You won't back yourself into a wall when you're just working with the lights. So we have, I guess I could do backdrops for these. So we have our first section, that's where we're bringing in our data, and then we're just doing a couple shuffles so that it displays properly. We have another backdrop, that's for our light grade AOVs. Now after this we can do a remove node. We can remove all the channels we don't need so that it's faster to work with. So we're just going to only keep RGBA. Let's go ahead and disable these so we can see what's happening here. So we still have our alpha and we have our RGB. If we look at the layer context sheet, now we're just dealing with this one channel. See how fast that loaded? If I do this, this is going to load very slowly because it's trying to work with too much, load too many channels. So here, if we don't need it anymore, we're done doing our light AOV grades. Then we just lose all those channels. We're just working with our beauty at this point. We will need cryptomats. We could let the cryptomats come through here. What I like to do is just set a sidechain here. Let's do it here. And let's do remove. We're going to remove everything but cryptomats. So right now we're getting no layers. We're going to keep, and we're going to keep cryptomat asset, cryptomat asset 1. Oh. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna make this efficient because I don't know how to do it in a great way. So let me go ahead and show you what a cryptomat does if you don't know already. So I'm gonna go to tab, cryptomat, and this node appears. And if we plug this into the main chain where the cryptomats still exist, not down here past the remove node, if you view from here, you'll see this. And I just don't know. There were three different material channels. There was 3 different object channels and asset channels. And so as you can see here, they're combined. So I don't really know what's going on under the hood. So I'm not going to mess with that data. Since we rarely view this channel, this sidechain, it doesn't matter that it has all that data inside of it. It's only until we try and display the data that it's going to be a problem. So we can let all that data flow through here so that we can grab cryptomats from this sidechain. So we'll have something like this. Okay, so we have a grade. Let's show you how to do this. These cryptomats are just masks that are going to separate pieces of geometry that we can edit separate from everything else. Like, for instance, these really bright papers that are blowing out from the sunlight over here. Let's go ahead and just do a grade on them. I would start with AOV grades, but since we're working in the grade section, like the overall grade section, I'll do it here. So let's do 3 of these for 3 different things, just so we can create a little backdrop. Okay, so if we select the cryptomat layer, view from it, sorry, not the node, I'm using material, objects, assets. Look like, I mean, I didn't do any special grouping in here, so it's all just going to be what was set up by the Nuke artist. It all looks pretty broken up. Normally asset would be like all the chairs would be in one group. The walls would be, you know, like the asset artist would group things into larger chunks. This looks like it's just individual objects. So we can see all these papers are different. Yep. Okay, so there we go. Asset does do something. This whole chalkboard is one asset. So yeah, I'm just gonna use I think I want to go by material because it's the materials that are kind of blowing out on this paper. So I go here, the picker is on add right now, so if I just control left mouse click something, now you can see it's highlighted. I'm going to get that mat. If I press A, that's the alpha that's going to be the result of this cryptomat choice. So let's go ahead and go view from the grade. Let's pull off a mask. In case you don't know what grades are, the grade node is just it's going to bring in the data and do some color corrections on it and spit it out. So right now I'm just grading, doing the gain down to 0, just like we were doing with the AOV, light AOVs above. That's just grading the whole image to black. So until I add a mask, it was just affecting everything. Now I've attached a mask to it. It's only going to affect what's in the mask's alpha. If I go into this grade node, I can go to the mask option, and you could use other layers, or other channels, but right now it's accepting the alpha. Whatever alpha is plugged in, that's what it's going to use. So I'm using this alpha from this crypto. So let's go ahead and go to the cryptomat and let's control left click on other shapes. Let's get them all. And let's grab this shape too. That's overly bright. That's overly bright. Ooh, I don't like that. So I just changed to pick or remove, and I'm going to remove that. Okay. So I've collected all this stuff that I thought was blowing out, and I've graded to 0. Let's reset that, and let's just bring the grade down just a little. So what I'm looking for is information. I want more information. This whole shape right here is white. It's got a couple little blotches of color, but the white is all clipped. So I just want to pull it back to where I can see more information. So just until there. Now I still have white pixels, but it's more of like a gradient now. Cool. So So I'm not going to do anything from these grades. Let's move on down. After we do our grades, we're going to do some lens effects. So we're going to do a Z defocus filter. This is going to be a depth of field filter. So plug the image in. The filter would be like a bokeh shape, like a triangle or a pentagon, hexagon, whatever you want. When it blurs out like a bright light source into a shape in the background, this is what it's going to turn into. We'll leave that. We don't need it. So we're going to go into our defocus node. It's got this little focal point that appears, and right now we can see it's not doing anything. So this next thing is really important. When things aren't working the way you would expect them to, what you need to do is trace data backwards or forwards, really. You're tracing it back to the source. I like to go straight to the source and see if the data is corrupt from the start. So we're going to go in here, and I'm just going to view from here just so that you can see the RGB channel, and that'll kind of give you some reference to what I'm doing. But I want to look at the Z depth pass, because for some reason it seems like the Z depth is not working. So I'm going to go up here, and what I can do is down here you have the when I'm sampling pixels, it shows me the red contribution, green contribution, blue contribution for that pixel. The alpha is set to a value of 1. If we go over here to the black area, the alpha is 0. So is the RGB. If we go to the alpha, you can see I'm sampling white. This white number here is an alpha of 1 and then an alpha of 0. Okay? So what I'm going to do, and I'm just switching, I'm pressing A on the keyboard to switch back and forth between these. You can see it changing up here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say don't display the alpha channel here, display a different channel. And I'm going to go down and find my depth. This is my depth channel that was rendered from Blender. Okay, now I'm getting a value here, 5. Okay, I'm going to control and drag around a little dot that's going to sample the pixels. If I go close to camera, I would expect that number to shrink. Yeah, 0.5. That's a very low number. That's close to camera. If I go away from camera, 9. So that's our range of depth set up in this channel. It's not a very big range, numerically speaking, but it's all relative. It's a floating point, so it's going to be fine. If we go outside the window, we can see we get this error. It's basically infinity. It means that the ray is not hitting anything and collecting depth data. It just went out and never came back. That's going to be a problem for us later. I'll show you here in a second. So the data's working. So why is it not getting down to my to the node, the Z defocus node? There's a long way and a short way to do this. The short way is look at what depth Z. That's the default channel that Nuke's going to use, and it doesn't exist. We need to go and select our interior depth.z, and that'll fix the issue. But when I'm troubleshooting stuff like this, I will shuffle out the channel that I want to deal with. In this case, depth. So depth is just a single channel. I'm gonna have it displayed in the red. You can send it to red, green, and blue, and then it'll turn white. And now we see, okay, what's going on here? There is data there. Now I'm sampling all the pixels will be the result of whatever that depth is. So we have 0.5 in the close to camera, and 9, 10 far away. So that's all working. So I can use this information down here to tell me that the data is working. I can also visualize it by doing a grade on this data, and I set the black point to 10, white point to 1. Black point means at what value will the pixel turn black? At 10. I already sampled the depth of field, the depth layer, and saw that 10 was kind of out here in the hallway, and then 1 is close to camera. So we're using our black point and our white point. I can invert those. So if I go to the black point of 1 and a white point of 10, now things closer to a value of 1 are going to be black. Things closer to a value of 10 are going to be white. And let's say I wanted the white point to happen sooner. I could pull this up. I could do a white point of 5. Now a distance 5 units from camera will turn white. So what you want to do generally is just max it out. 10, 15, as you can see, once it starts getting darker, I'm not adding any more information. What you want is black and white visible in frame. So 10 gives me a full range. So now I can see that the data is good. Here with the shuffle, I could sample pixels and see that the data was good here. But now with the grade, I can visually see, instead of just interpreting numbers, I can get a visual feedback of what's going on. So that's all good. So now I'm just going to grab this input, and I'm just going to move it along through each section. And what I'm looking for is, does it break? Did I do something? There we go. So even though I made an assumption earlier that if I change the channel, that it would be fixed, it won't, because the channel no longer exists anyway. I've removed it here. So what I want to do is also keep that layer. Depth, interior depth. Oh, that popped back. Great. So the data's now traveling downstream. It's not broken. And it reaches all the way. Oh, now this definitely breaks that data, but that's okay. So channels, it's affecting all channels. So it's going to change the depth channel as well. We can change this back to RGBA. Now the data is still intact even at this point. So now that we know the data is coming in correctly, we can kind of move this focal point around. Nothing's happening, and that's because this node is not using the correct layer, the correct channel. Let's change it to our interior depth Z. That's the channel we actually rendered. Depth.z is a default channel Nuke looks for, but we need to point it to our custom depth data. Now when we move this point and sample, yes, now it's working. So let's turn it on and off and see. Oh, I see some stuff happening here in the foreground. These chairs are getting blurred out. Let's change the result to something ridiculous, 50. And now let's just try and focus on some things. This light, this hallway. It looks to be working as I would expect it to. It has a really shallow depth of field. You could see it's blurry right here and right here. It's just, that is not a very big plane to work with. So we could change the depth of field plane to be a little larger. So that's good. Let's focus on this chalkboard, and we do not need this much depth of field. It's making things look small. It's also creating a ton of artifacts because the depth between this foreground element and this background element is too great. That causes issues. So normally you would separate this into different layers if you're handling depth of field in Nuke to overcome these problems. Okay, so let's back off that. Let's do maximum, or a size of 10. Maximum 15. Okay, let's turn that on and off. It's great. Now, though, we're getting an artifact over here. What the heck's going on here? It's blurring out this edge is just like blurring and causing a bunch of artifacts. The reason is when we sample the depth data, we're still viewing the depth channel here instead of the alpha. That's infinity, and this is a value of 4. So when the renderer sees a pixel that's infinitely far away and a value of 4, it's going to try and blur between them. So imagine if you're mixing paint, black and white, you're going to get a gray, right? Well, if you had infinitely black paint, it's going to destroy. You're not going to get a gray, you're going to get something, it will be black basically, because it's so far into the black range that it just destroys whatever small value of white you put into there. And that's what's happening here. So what we need to do is bring this infinity back closer so it can resolve the pixels. So what we're going to do is right before this Z to focus, we're going to do a clamp. Tab, clamp, and we're going to clamp the Z depth channel. So if we go up here to channels, we don't want to clamp all this channels. I'll show you what clamp does. Maximum of 0, that's the value any pixel can be, the lowest value, and the highest value is 1. If I change this high value to 0.5, all our whites will disappear. See, now the range that this image is allowed to go to is 0.5. So what we're going to do is clamp the depth. So there's that depth, and we're going to say, well, if this hallway was about a 10, as a distance of depth of 10, let's go a little higher than our furthest distance for outside. Let's do 15. Now when we clamp and unclamp, you see that gets much better. That cleans up. If we clamp to 5, it cleans up really nice, but now we're probably pulling this, we're flattening the depth back here. So make sure it's got to at least be, or at least be 10 or 9. It can't be closer to camera than this geometry over here. So cool. 10 seems to work really nicely. We're not clamping our value, and I can show you what we're doing here. Let's clamp it maximum of 5. 10. See, we're expanding that. 100. Nothing's really happening between 100 and 10. So we're not losing any information or adding it. We're just adding artifacts by going over 10. If we go to 9, you'll start to see this white will start clamping and come forward. 8, yeah. 7, okay, so now we've clamped all that depth. We've lost depth information back there. So 10 seems to be a good number. Okay, so turn this on and off. Just a little blur up here in the front happening. I'm cool with that. I would have to separate this out to get really good depth of field. For this tutorial, I'm happy that we have a result that's not broken. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a backdrop. And that's going to be our depth of field section. We can delete these nodes. They were just for troubleshooting. And then we'll do one more section after this. An overall grade. And this is going to be a vignette. So I'm going to grade everything to black. Tab, roto, create a roto shape. Disconnect that. If you have something selected when you lay a node down, it'll automatically connect it. So I'm going to use this roto shape as a mask. So only what's inside this mask, or outside this mask rather. And that is not working well. Okay, I'm already noticing right here, up here, 1935 by 1095. Okay, the canvas has grown. I don't want that to grow. So this defocus node is adding some information that I don't really need for this next part. So I'm going to go to tab, reformat, and I'm going to reformat this to HD 1080. Okay, and this reformat's just removing that extra canvas We don't need those extra pixels that aren't going to be on screen and I don't want to deal with right now. So I go here, go to Roto. So what I want to do is, the Roto has its own canvas size too. That's not what I want to use to help me visualize where I want to draw it. So I'm going to view from the grade node, but I'm going to double click the Roto. So I have the Roto options up here. I'm going to change this Roto to be an ellipse, and now I'm going to go from this corner down to this corner. Okay, now that's creating a black shape in the middle. The vignette needs to happen outside of this shape. So we're going to do the grade, and for the mask, we're going to invert it. Okay, now we're just working with the pixels outside of this circular shape. Obviously it's sharp. We want to blur that. We're going to press B. There's a blur node. And I'm going to start blurring that out. Okay, I want it much more. 200. That's nice and soft for me. But now it's getting cut off. I don't see a perfect like circular shape. I see these flat edges, so I want to just kind of pull it in to get rid of some of those flat edges. Just a little bit. Oops. On top of screen. Okay. I'm going to switch this back to 1 because I've got 2 different nodes and it's showing manipulator I don't want. So switch that to 1. Now if I want to see the roto manipulator, I have to select that specific shape. So that's great. It's giving some darkness around the frame, and obviously that's too dark. Pull it back to something like 0.6. Yeah, just a little something to focus us towards this what I've chosen to be the subject of this shot is this whiteboard. Cool. So the reformat will keep as just an in-between. It's not like part of this section really. And then add a backdrop. You could name these backdrops. I'm not naming them, but this would be like vignette. This would be depth of field. This would be RGB grades. This would be light AOV grades or light group grades, and this is like importing your data. Cool. So I think that's it for the template. Let's go ahead and save. Now we have a final image. We've already, well, we haven't done any light grades. Let's do some of those. Let's just do something simple just to call this good. For the hallway, let's turn the hallway light off. The hall light's off. Okay, so we've brought our data in, shuffled in the channels that we want to see. We've created a macro for editing light groups or light AOVs. We've edited one of those and got a good result. We're removing any extra data, light AOVs and things that we're not going to use further down to be more efficient. We've grading something. All these bright shapes, we're grading those down with a crypto mat to make sure it only affects the geo we want. Then we are creating some lens effects and then creating some more lens effects, and that's that. And then we would do at the end a write node. And the write node is the output from Nuke. So we've brought data in, we've processed it, and now we're going to output that data. Cool. So let's go ahead and choose where we want to put this classroom. We'll do it in comp. And I will just call this lighting tut comp output. Okay. Let's go ahead and render that as a, we don't need an alpha channel, so we'll just do RGB. Oh yeah, so with Nuke, I think you have to describe what kind of output it's going to be. So .jpg will be a JPEG. I think that's how that works. Let's go ahead and render it. We're going to just render frame 1. Okay. Okay, it just rendered something. Let's go ahead and find our comp directory. And there is a JPEG there. Ah, perfect. So we have gotten through the comp pipeline. Now let's go ahead and relight this shot 3 different ways. Let's address some notes you might get from director or your lead or your soup. Okay, so the first one's going to be fun. Oh, there's one more section we could add here. Let's add a matte painting for through the glass. Yeah, let's do it here. I'm going to create a constant, and I'm going to make that blue. Well, let's just do white for now, and let's merge it right here. It's going to be under. So A over B always. So if we hide this, we just have the background, and then we're going to be applying the image on top of the background. The background's too big because this constant has a really large area, so we need to change that format to the format of our CG. So now we can see, if we turn this on and off, you're like, what's happening? Well, it's displaying the background. This would normally be the matte painting, and then our CG is being laid over. If you swap these and then do an under, then you can turn it on and off and see the result that way. So that's fine, we can do it that way. One thing that is important to note here is be careful about what's happening to the auxiliary channels that you can't see, like the Z depth channel. You know, when you do a merge here, we're going to merge RGBA, RGBA, but you could also merge every other channel in here. So if both of these were coming from Blender and they both had all these different channels, you need to be careful about not just how the RGB data merges on top of one another. You need to make sure the other data, the other channels are merging properly. So cool. Let's make this blue sky. Actually, I'm going to put this somewhere else because I'm going to switch between 3 different lighting situations, and I want that switch to happen down here. So let's see. We'll do it here after the grading. I'm going to do a merge. Put that constant down. Make it white. Make it HD 1080. And we will do B. Let's do the B. What did I do? I've got B and I've got over. Oh my goodness, I'm going crazy. There's no alpha, maybe. Yep, we've removed the alpha. No, let's see. Oh. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Got the alpha there. Okay. Alpha's gone. Okay. So This is what I'm talking about. You need to make sure you understand that there's lots of other channels that need to be sent through the pipe, or sent through the chain, the tree, intact. So I'm losing an alpha channel somewhere around here. So I have to go inside one of these nodes I made and figure out, there, I'm losing my alpha channel. And that's because here I'm shuffling RGB to RGB and no alpha to alpha. Bam, now I got my alpha channel back. That's important. So we still have the alpha. Don't know if it'll fix this. Yes, okay, so now we have an alpha channel, we can over it properly. Okay, let's do a light wrap. Because this is a bright light source, this is representing the sky. So it's going to take this and wrap it around this. So we're just going to create like a little bloom there at the window, bring the intensity down so it's just subtle. There. And then we could also do glow on these guys up here. Let's do that. Let's just do a glow. Let's do it in this section. Glow I would generally do kind of after my grades. Considered an atmospheric or volumetric. So that kind of stuff would come after all the grading's done. So let's do a glow here. Sorry. And we just want, let's do a cryptomat. There's a couple ways we could do this, actually. We could do this as a general like lens diffusion. Let's do that. Maybe we won't need this light wrap. So here's our lens effects, right? We've got Z defocus, we've got vignetting. Let's do a diffusion. So this is going to diffuse based on a tolerance. If I say the pixels need to be brighter than 1, then only the pixels that are real light sources are going to be affected. And let's do 2. So that we get kind of like a quadratic fall off feeling. So this first one will be tighter. So we'll do a size of 5. And the second one will be like, 30 is way too much. Let's bring it into something like that. Now we feel like we're feeling like a quadratic fall off from this light source, which is more realistic. And that's cool. I don't like how it's affecting those bulbs up there. Yeah, I like something like that for these, and this will disappear. And I like the way it's blooming over here. I'm gonna go with that. Quadratic out the window. Let's just do something that looks visually pleasing. And then we're gonna change the brightness way down. We just want a little bit of atmosphere around those. Okay, cool. So then we don't really need the light wrap anymore because that this is acting like a diffuser. Let's go ahead and do backdrop. So that's its own little thing. Okay, let's change this constant to blue, right? Let's go ahead and pull out some red, pull out some green. Okay, so now it's a blue. It's the problem is now it's below 1. If everything is set to 1 here, then it will affect the diffusion. It'll reach the threshold to be affected by the glow. If I'm pulling color out of white, then I'm lowering it below 1. So what I would need to do is set this, say, to the blue I want, something like that. And if I still want it to affect that diffusion, then I would have to put a grade here and gain it so it's above 1. See how it's creating that glow? So I kind of like that, because the sky still feels bright. Maybe it feels like there's a lot of particles in the air, and it's really bright outside. Kind of like that overexposed look. I don't like this look, but unfortunately we don't really have any information there. If we go back to the original, these are just emissive. I don't think we could test it. Let's gain it down. Yeah, see, they're just flat colors. So there's no shader there to work with. We would want like a reflection and some shape, but we're not going to get anything by manipulating this in Nuke. So let's just leave those as is, which is unfortunate. They don't look very good. Okay. Our depth broke. These glows might be breaking our depth. So let's go ahead and go to depth Z and start sampling. Yep, there is no depth information. If we go here, is there depth information? No. Here. Oh, sorry, depth Z. I did it. Interior depth Z. Okay, information's good. I'm looking right here to read these values. Okay, this merge. I also need to merge the Z depth. Okay, now it's also merging, not only merging this RGB, but it's also merging that auxiliary channel. So that's still intact. Let's go to the glows. Did the glows break it? Nope, glows are good. They're only affecting the RGB. The depth clamp is to fix that window thing, and perfect. So now the Z depth is working again, as expected. Cool. Vignette. Right. Okay, let's go ahead and save. Alright, now let's do some fun stuff. Let's go ahead and pause the video. That was exciting, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and relight this. Let's say the director, let's say you're doing look dev, and whoever your soup is or whoever's giving you commands is like, I would like to see what this looks like at night. This asset, you know, can you do something in Nuke? Sure, of course we can. So the section that we'll be dealing with, because it's nighttime, is anything contributing to the pixels we're seeing. That includes the matte painting. That's going to change the lighting, because nighttime sky looks different than a day sky. And that goes all the way up to these AOV grades. So let's go ahead, create another branch here. We're going to select everything down to the matte painting. Give us some dots to separate it. So this whole section is going to change our look. So we're going to copy paste it, and this will be a completely new chain with a new look. So we'll connect that back up, and then we're going to do here a switch, so we can switch between the different looks. So the first switch would be 0. That'll go this way, up to this chain, or this branch. Second switch will go to this branch, and then the output of those, either of those options, will go down here. Now if we view down here, let's make an extreme change. Let's grade this to black to 0. So that, let's go ahead and flip our switch from 0. It's right now it's set to 0, so that's this path. If I switch this to 1, it'll take this path. Right? Great. So it's hitting our matte painting, which is blue. It's hitting our CG plate, or CG pass, and that's been graded to black because of this node. So the switch is working. Okay, put that back to 1. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is grade everything to black. So we have black, black, and we have a problem here. There's nothing for it to over. So you won't see any information. Let's see if we gain. Yeah, it's also affecting the alpha. That's a problem. We don't want to grade the alpha. We just want to grade the RGB. So let's go back into this grade node. We have to edit this a bit. RGB. So the second one is shuffling. So this, again, it's the same problem I had before. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's delete everything, all these nodes, because we had an issue with one of them. So let's go inside, fix this shuffle node. I think it's this one. We need to make sure our alpha stays intact. Okay, that's good. Now when we grade something to black, it won't make the alpha invisible. It'll just make that light group invisible. Okay, so if this is if we switch our switch to 0, we'll do this branch, and that's our daytime look. And then if we switch to this branch, which is 1, we're going to go over here. Let's start working on a new look. The first thing, let's get rid of all of our lights. So let's do ceiling. Ceiling lights are gone. Chalkboard's gone. Hallway's gone. Sun is gone. And finally our window light is gone. Now all we have is our matte painting. Let's do our matte painting to 0. No light in the scene. We're going to do a relight. So the first thing that I like to start with is one of two things. Either the overall ambience, the skylight, or the key light. So in this case, I'm going to start with the key light, which would be the sun. So the difference between sun and moon, moon's a little softer shadows and much lower intensity. So if our sunlight, honestly, for sunlight, I might go something like up to 2 or 3 in that other scene, and we'll get back to that one. But if our sun were originally a value of 1, then our moonlight's got to be much lower. It's like a 0.2. We're going to want it to have a bluish tint. So we'll just add a little more blue. It's a little reddish purple, so let's take some of that out. Cool. So we have our moonlight. Let's go ahead and do the fill next. The fill light would be the window fill. I'm going to set that back. That's daylight fill. So that's probably better value for moonlight. And again, let's add some coolness to it. Perfect. Now I'm noticing this black sky outside is bugging me. Let's go ahead and change this to match. Let's go to 1. Let's bring it down in value to about what we want. Actually, I'm going to just sample. It's going to sample this color. which is above 1. So that's triggering our diffuser. Oops, lost it. Yeah. Okay, so can make some choices here. If we want, this is like an on-set look where they have like lights and stuff outside the windows. That could be more like horror film. I don't know. I know I don't want a lot of contrast there because it's drawing my eye. And unfortunately, this window light is really bright on these on this window pane. So I don't really have a lot of options here for making this dark without creating contrast there. So what I'm gonna do probably is go back into Blender and try and move that light away from the window so that it's less of a sharp fall off. So I guess for this scene I'm gonna go with a little bit brighter just to line up with what we're seeing outside. And I'll just sample here. We'll go with the weird glowy look. Okay, these ceiling lights are black. That's a problem. So let's add a little bit of light in. Okay, these things are just flat shapes, unfortunately. So let's just try and do something that's not obvious. And those really need some proper shading to really make this scene shine. There we go. We have a nighttime look. We can turn the chalkboard on. There's that chalkboard. And that's a really warm light. Maybe I want to go with the cooler look. You know? To not take away from the what's outside. Or maybe I want a really kind of creepy, oppressive like colors. That hallway has a lot of contrast. This black, that's drawing my eye. Let's bring it up just so that there's less contrast there. Most contrast is happening here and here. So I want to fix this so that doesn't distract my eyes. One thing we took from the other branch was grading these shapes down. Let me just see if that needs to be done in this branch. I'm going to tone it down because that brings my eye here. So we'll keep that. Cool. Let's do a sunset next. So we'll just copy all this stuff. Grab another switch. It's hard to see, but there's a little arrow to pull off from there. And now you have 3 switches. So let's go to this one, and then let's change this sun. I'm not going to go to black on this one. I'm going to change my sun color back to white. That's like a reset for me. And then pull some blue out and go brighter. I want it like really strong. Also, you're not the angle of the sun really matters. Normally for a sunset you're gonna get these shadows, or sorry, this light's gonna hit the wall, not be coming down like this. So you can't just do anything you want in Nuke. But we can create kind of a vibe, sunset vibe. The next thing to do, let's say it's still the daytime, so let's turn these on, these ceiling lights. Let's keep it kind of low though. Let's go to this window fill. That's going to need to be swung warm. Now we could go like purpley to create contrast between the sky and the sun, you know? Now that sun feels really warm against like a cool autumn sky. Or we could be like more oppressive. Maybe it's hot, really hot outside. It's whatever you want. Whatever your director wants. I like something there. A little bit of cools in the sky. Let's change the chalkboard because I don't want that color. Maybe I just turn it off. Yeah. Just turn it up. So I'm going to go back because I don't want to change the color. I just want to change the value. So I can click these two things and it'll go back to value 1. Or I can right click and set to default. I guess that doesn't work. Okay. Well, if it's a value other than 1, you can set it to default. I thought it would also collapse that, but I guess not. So we got our light back. Oops, that's not the wrong one. Chalkboard. I don't know with this one. Don't really know what I'm going for. I guess if it's all about the sunset, I'll just leave that one off. Let's change the sky. It's a little too blue. Go for something more kind of strange. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Cool. So now we have 3 different looks from the same AOVs. Neutral daylight, nighttime, sunset-y kind of feel, or morning. So yeah. Let's go ahead and create a cover image for this tutorial. We got that one. I'm just gonna merge these on top of each other and use a roto shape. Okay, so we got 2 looks. Now we're gonna merge this one and this one over. Create another roto shape. And that'll be over here. Okay, so do some thirds-ish. Okay. There we go. Go ahead and save that. Render it. Look at our output. Boom. So we'll use that image for the YouTube thumbnail or whatever. Cool. Yeah. Some final things. I know it's really at the end, but I'm just kind of wrapping this up for myself. I may cut a short version of this so that people don't have to listen to my, like going on about workflow or whatever, or the random things I talked about, or having to deal with the issues I went through. But I think that's important to see. I'm 10 years on feature animations, 15 years in CG. I run into problems all the time. So it's not about always having the answer. It's about knowing how to be resourceful, knowing where to look, how to troubleshoot when something breaks. You're tracing your steps. Always thinking about data flow, where the data is coming from, what you're doing to it, and how it's leaving your department. Are you cleaning house as you go along? Are you creating headaches for the next person? Because you will get headaches from the department ahead of you, and you will get complaints from the department behind you, or however you want to look at that. Could be reversed, ahead versus behind. But I think it's really important not just to follow this tutorial and just think, oh, I take this step, oh, this tool could help. I want you to be like, why did he build this tool? What was the purpose? And why did he build it this way versus this way? There's people who build things differently than I do, and maybe better ways. But the reason I chose to do it the way I did was purposeful. So I kind of wanted you to see some of that. Cool. Yeah, that's it for me. I'm going to, like I said, in the description I'll put links for Blender, the scene I created here, or the free asset, and a link to that nuke, that free nuke. But I hope this was helpful. This is my first tutorial, so that's why it's long and I'm rambling. But yeah, if you find it useful, please just say so in the comments. If you find something really frustrating, say so in the comments. I might make more tutorials. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I don't know if it's worth sharing or not. I don't know if people are going to value this or not. So, yeah, take care. Happy lighting.